to the show. Wait, Leslie Rob said what? What? Leslie Rob said what? What she said? What? Leslie Rob said what?
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Leslie Said What? Oh my gosh, guys, it has been forever. Am I right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so just like always, feel free to join the conversation via the comments. So tonight's guest is my principal, Mr. Abed, and he is going to talk to us about the top tips for building a great relationship with admin. Okay, this is going to be hilarious. Okay, he is so comical. Okay, so this is going to be a lot of fun. All right, so as always, feel free to join the conversation via the comments, say hello, ask questions, and we will address your questions and your comments as they come in. We are just so excited to be here. So why waste the time? So without further ado, let's bring him on, Mr. Abed. Hey, Mr. Abed. Hey, how are you?
I didn't hear anybody cheering for me, so I was like clapping for myself.
No harm in that. No.
What's up, Leslie Rob?
Oh my gosh, how are you, Mr. Abed?
Living the dream. Every day is a great day.
That's what you always say.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing? You doing all right today?
I'm doing great. I'm just so glad that you were able to take the time to be here tonight. So yes, thank you.
Well, what I figured is viewership's down on your podcast, and that me being on there might help the viewership and maybe the ratings a little bit. So I figured, why not? I'll take one for the team, get those ratings up for you. So
you are a mess. Oh my gosh. Mr. Abed, why don't you tell everybody how we met?
Well, so I guess a couple years ago, I don't know, it's probably been 7-8 years ago, I was looking for a fax teacher when I was assistant principal at Swansea High School. And I had a fax teacher position. And this lady applied for this position, but she was living internationally at the time. And so we interviewed her, and she was the only applicant in the whole system for a fax teacher. Was it mid-year or was it the beginning of the year?
Yeah, it was mid-year. I applied like in December.
Yeah. And so we did a Zoom conference call and hired her that way. And then ever since then, it's been a rough road for me.
Whatever. You love having me at school.
Yeah. So I hired you at Swansea High School, and you came as a fax teacher, and you were there. We were probably there together for 3 years before I left and went to the Career and Tech Center, and then you took off to a different county.
Yes, so I was like, look, I need to go make more money.
So that's how we met. But, kind of the funny story is, your dad and I knew me, right, from years ago.
Which is crazy.
We never knew that until one day you showed him a picture of me, and then you showed me a picture of him. I was like, yeah, I know your dad. He used to come to my father in the grocery store growing up, and your dad used to come in there all the time and buy stuff from us. So
yeah, it's so crazy that's just weird. And we just realized that.
Yeah, I mean, Spotsylvania is a small, the world's small anyhow. And I went to the same high school that you did. Obviously, you're a little older than I am, so you went
whatever.
Me, and so I'm sure.
So full of it.
I'm sure our paths had crossed sometime before, but
never
but that's how.
It, yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of neat because I was assistant principal at the high school that I went to high school, and you taught at the high school that you went to high school too. So
it's crazy. It's such a small town that we live in. But yes. So guys, Mr. Abed is my current principal. If you guys did not know that, you can see us on TikTok. We made a few videos togetger. But
that's how you originally went viral. Just remember that.
Whatever. So he takes credit, guys, for my success. And he says he equates it to our videos that we made. If you guys haven't seen them, it's on all social media platforms. All right. So Mr. Abed, introduce yourself to us.
All right, so my name is Retha Abed. I've been a principal now for 4 years. I've been in administration for 10 years.
Nice.
So prior to that, I was a high school marketing teacher, DECA advisor. I'm one of 11, so I have 10 siblings, 9 boys, 2 girls in my family. Married. Wife, and I've been married 24 years. And my daughter's going to be a senior this year, if you can believe that.
That's crazy. So see who's older. You are.
Well, I just started later in life. So.
Whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm been in Fredericksburg, Virginia, Spotsylvania area almost all my life. Went away for college. I took off to Rhode Island to go to school, and then
Oh, wow.
ended back in Fredericksburg.
Well, we are just glad that you're here. So, and literally, like, guys, definitely A1 as far as principal. All right. So, what brought
You
you to
know,
being a principal? Wait,
I
what?
don't sign. I don't sign your paychecks, right? Like,
Oh my
so
gosh. So clearly, since you don't sign my paychecks, I'm not lying because I ain't got nothing to lie for. I mean, I'm just saying. So, what brought you to being a principal?
the honest truth is, I wanted to go to the bathroom anytime I wanted. So when you're a classroom teacher, whew, you have to go to that restroom sometimes, and you have to ask for coverage. People won't run into you, but you know, no. The truth is that when you're a classroom instructor, you make such an impact on kids, right? And kids remember
Yeah.
you, and especially being like a club advisor like you are, you get to take kids on leadership events, and you made such an impact. And so when you think about what your next step is, how you can make more of an impact on more kids.
Yeah.
And so when I left the classroom, the goal was to get into administration so I can have a bigger impact on kids and staff and things like that. So that's how I got into being a principal. Is I just thought, what's next and how I can help more.
Yeah.
And so far I think it's been working out for me.
Yeah. Now, how long were you a classroom teacher and what did you teach?
So I was a classroom teacher for 10 years. I taught marketing. So I taught like sports marketing, marketing. I did like a business management class, and was also a DECA advisor. I used to coach wrestling and helped out with football and things like that. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well,
And
cool. And what grade level do you work with now?
well, I'm 9 through 12, so high school. So I'm the principal at the Career and Tech Center in Spotsylvania, Virginia. So what we do there is we have 19 different programs in CTE. We feed in from all 5 high schools in our county. So we have 5 different high schools. The kids come to us. They pick their program they want to be in. They apply, and we have 19 different options for our students right now. So anything from your medical, nursing, and dental, vet assistant. We have culinary arts, automotive, welding, just a variety of things. One of my favorite classes is a hospitality class. We're still looking for a great teacher for that class, but it's one of our.
Whatever. Guys, he's saying that because I teach hospitality. Whatever. I am a good teacher.
Yeah. So we feed in from all 5 high schools, and right now at our current enrollment, we see about 1,300 to 1,400 kids a year that come through our programs.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And it's such a great alternative for kids nowadays because so many people have gotten away from like, hey, college is next. And they are looking into alternative routes like career and tech. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think what we do, and obviously in our county, we have career and tech classes at the middle school and at the high school level. But this just takes it to the next level, having a tech center where the kids can come and they spend half a day with us, and and they leave with a credential that takes them to the next level. So like our cosmetology students are sitting for their state boards. So they're licensed cosmetologists, and our culinary art kids are getting their Surf Safe Manager certificate. So many opportunities. So regardless of what you're going to do after high school, that's what I love about it. Is our kids are going to college, they're going to the military, they're going to the workforce, but they have a skill and they have a tool that nobody can take away from them, regardless of what they're going to do.
Right. And I love that too, because when the kids come through the program and they get their certification, I said, hey, this doesn't automatically take college out of the running. It's just more of now you could actually have this that will take you to college and beyond. But at the same time, they could use those certificates that they get from us as a part-time gig while they're in college. So that also works.
Yeah. And I use the example all the time. When I was in college, there was a young lady that was on our college dorm, and she had gotten her cosmetology license in high school. So she cut everybody's hair on the floor, and she made money putting her through her 4-year college. And because she was a licensed cosmetologist, we were like, oh, wow. And the kids used to just pay her to give them haircuts. And I thought that was the neatest thing. So I always use that as an example.
Yeah. And I have like one of my students in my class, she would make different baking pastries and different things like that and sell them as a entrepreneurship thing as well. So like, and I had some girls doing hair as well. Hey, whatever works, give them a little part-time job right now.
Well, I tell the kids when they come through, regardless of what you can do after high school, if you learn a little HVAC, you're going to own a house one day, right?
Truth.
In your family, your dad's an HVAC technician, right? So,
yeah.
Imagine, right now, the middle of summer and your HVAC goes bad, or in the middle, and then it's 100 degrees in the house and you're calling an HVAC technician to come out. That's a lot of money you're paying. But if you just knew a little bit about HVAC.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. Okay. So, Mr. Abed, tell us something funny, a funny experience you've had as a principal so far. One of the funniest things you can think of has happened so far.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Miss Rob. A lot of the funny stuff is happening around you, but it's every day is a really good day. You love what you do, right? You get to walk in a building, and you like the people you work with, you like the kids that come through, and you like the community. And so, but I guess when I'm thinking about a funny experience, it's really when I tried to hire you to come back to the Career and Tech Center.
Oh my gosh! Of course, you had to make it about me.
Well, it's not about you, but you say, hey, there's a lot of funny things, but when you're like calling and trying to recruit somebody for a job, and it's hard for us to find people in our building, it's different because we have all the trades.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not going to college fairs recruiting, people that come to our tech center.
Right.
And so when we're, creating a new program around hospitality, travel, and tourism, and you wanted the right person. So, the funniest is, obviously I called you 3 or 4 times to recruit you, and you didn't want to come because you're making, this amazing money, and you're driving 2 hours each way and
whatever,
all that stuff. But just sitting at that light that one morning, and it was 7:00 in the morning, and it was the summertime, and I'm sitting at the light right before the school, and I said, God, I'm gonna call Leslie one more time before I get to work, because just to see what she says. It's 7:00 in the morning, and I call you, and you're like, God's told me you're calling me today. And, and it's not funny because you said, but it's just the work up to that. And, having that, it's the process of trying to hire somebody and today's market of trying to find teachers.
Good teachers, anyway.
Good teachers. Yeah. We're still looking good teachers, but that's probably one of my, funniest experience. The other, is I went to a meeting one day, and all these principals are talking about all the different things that are happening in their building. And I walked in, and they're like, what's crazy in your building? And I said, well, I walked into automotive today, and they said, Mr. Abed, we're out of gas. Can you go buy us gas so we can get the car started? And so I'm running to the gas station. How many times does a principal get to run to the gas station, get gas, bring it back so they can work on a car and do different things like that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so you had to go actually and get the gas and bring it back?
Yeah, I'll get the
gas. See, hey, not every principal would have done that. So hey, look at you.
Yeah, I don't mind. And whatever the kids need, right?
Yeah. Clementine says, hi, Mr. Abed.
Oh, hey, Clementine, how are you?
And Sue says, 2 of my faves. Seriously, y'all crack me up. Well, thanks, Sue. Thanks for being here.
I'm not getting paid, Sue, so
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Mr. Abed, so let's dive right in. Tell us some top tips for building a great relationship with admin, because a lot of teachers nowadays, let's be for real, cannot stand their admin, like on more levels than one, which I'm sure you've heard through the grapevine, different things. But what are some things that you feel would help teachers and admin build a great relationship?
So the biggest thing is just being consistent as an admin and as an instructor. So whatever the expectation is of your staff, it has to go across the board, right? So there is no favoritism. There is no, I like this person. This person's a great teacher, so I'm gonna give them a little slack. Where this person is not a great teacher, so let's harp on them. If somebody's not doing their job and they're the best person in that building, regardless if it's the principal or the teacher or the custodian, you have to be fair and consistent to that person. And I just wholeheartedly believe that. Like, if I tell somebody, one person why are they late to work? And I have to tell the other 10 people who might come late. And it's just being consistent, but also, it's about building relationships and getting to know people.
Yeah.
You got to get to know people. And that's regardless of the industry you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take the time to get to know somebody and get to know a little bit about them and have a honest conversation with them about life, their kids, what they're doing after school, it can't always be about business.
True. Well said.
And so I feel like I build good relationships with my staff and everybody around me. I feel like I listen, now, am I right all the time, or do I do everything right all the time? No. Have I made mistakes? Yes. Have there been people who may not like every decision I've made? Yes, but we always do it for the kids, right? We make the decisions what's best for our students and what's best for our school and what's best for our staff. So I think, building that relationship and being consistent, and then setting those expectations like day one,
True. Mm-hmm.
The other thing, Leslie, is that I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do, or I wouldn't hold anybody accountable if I'm not holding myself accountable. So, sometimes just getting feedback, like, tell me, because sometimes, like somebody told me, you don't know what you don't know.
True.
And
Yep.
And if I don't know, I can't fix it, or I can't try to solve the problem to fix it.
Yeah. No,
So,
and I like how you said that the expectations are communicated from the beginning, and then that they're clear and they're concise and that they make sense. Like, that's the essential thing. I think that a lot of times it's a breakdown in communication. I think that contributes to that breakdown in relationship between principal and teacher.
yeah, I think it does. Or, sometimes we get lost and emailing. And sometimes, when you email something, it doesn't, you might interpret it one way and I might interpret it another way, and so trying to follow up and trying to be like very precise on what you email, or following up with a conversation, or actually just talking to people.
Yeah.
I think we lose out on talking to people.
For sure. I completely agree. And the thing is though, is that one thing I do like about you is it's like you don't just encourage us to have a positive attitude, you model the positive attitude. Like, and a lot of times your go-to phrase is always like, every day's a good day. Every day's a good
great day.
Now, Clem says, yes, that part. We set expectations later in the year and it's just too late. Like, it's too late. We have to start off right and then end right.
Yeah. And you start off right. And, and my feeling is I have the hard conversation with everybody one time at the beginning of the year. And then I can narrow down on who's really I need to concentrate on. So it's not really fair when you see like an administrator or a classroom teacher, for example, or a boss, where they yell at the whole class because one person has done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you set those expectations first, and then you've already told the whole class in the best way possible, and then that one person does something wrong, then you can pull that one person aside, and the other people don't have to keep hearing everything
Yes.
that's wrong.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, I will never understand that. Like, okay, because and this is just in anything. Like, even as a teacher, like, you can't, if there's an individual that is to blame, making a blanket statement to the entire group is not going to do anything, because if that person, it goes over their head, because clearly they don't realize it's our problem as it is. So like, to not address the problem on the individual makes a huge difference. So those faculty meetings that people have where like they're talking about one person, but then they talk to the whole group and that one person still ends up doing what they were doing because they completely missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens all the time, right? And
Yes.
And it's different if you have a large majority of people doing it. But in the fact, really, you have a very small majority. Most professionals come in and do their job because they know what their job is.
Right.
And so you have a few small people that try to get away with things. And unfortunately, sometimes it messes up for the group. But if you can just address that small group and just get them on track, and they really have to have a buy-in, a why,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's where it starts. So, you know, it's just being able to communicate, being able to talk to people, build that relationship with people. And yeah, do I have bad days? Am I not feeling well sometimes? You know, we all do, but sometimes when you walk through that door, you got to flip a switch and you got to decide what kind of day you're going to have.
Truth.
And we all have problems in life, right? But
Mm-hmm.
but it's nobody's fault in the building you work in, the students you're teaching, the staff you're working with. You know, so flip the switch and put a game face on. And do I feel like I'm living the dream? Yes, I wouldn't say if I didn't. When I first started saying it, people were like, yeah, you're just living somebody's nightmare. And I said, no. I said, you got to know, and deep down inside, if you're living a dream, because there's people worse off than you in the world.
So true.
And, you know, so that's just, I've done it. I've said it for years. I probably started saying it out of like anger one day because something was going wrong in life, and I'm living it. But then I realized I am living the dream.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's awesome. Now, and let me ask you a question. So one of the teachers had sent me a message, and she said that her admin was new to her school, and this was just a few weeks ago. So a new principal, he came in, and she went to school to pick up her laptop early, and just so happened he was in his office. So she pops in his office to introduce herself, to say, "Hey, I teach here." And the principal said hello, whatever. So she walks out. And she says, me and my husband are going to whatever. Da, da, da. So he stops her and says, you mean my husband and I? And he corrects her English. And so she was very upset and very distraught. Do you think she was justified in being upset?
I think so. I mean, not all, I don't talk perfect English, sometimes. Right. And for somebody to correct me especially when I'm don't know them, I mean, that would make me upset, as a principal, that's not probably a thing I would do, especially the first time I met somebody,
Right.
I'm trying to think like why that principal, like you're telling me the story, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't the principal, if he's new to that school, why wouldn't they set up meetings with all his staff members prior to starting so he gets to know them? I thought that's where we're going with this, but
yeah, no.
For him to correct,
he ended up doing that. She said, like, so she followed up with me this past week, and she said that like she went in and tried to sever the relationship. And that's something I wanted to bring up because I wanted, and you said exactly the same thing I was thinking, like to correct someone's English, initially meeting them like that is just like that's a way to sever a relationship from the jump. Like it started off on a good note. She's introducing herself. And then for him to shift it like that, it makes a huge difference. So she said that next week he did a meet and greet type thing for all the teachers where they had a meeting with him individually. But by the time it got to that point, she didn't even want to talk. To talk to him because you sever the relationship from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely got off on the wrong foot. But what I would do, I mean, obviously he probably did it. He probably doesn't understand what he did. He's probably so used to correcting people, that it just was natural to them to him. So once you get to know that person a little better, and you try to because you're going to be working for that person, it's probably hard, but you go in and have that conversation and just like, I just want to let you know, I think we started off on the wrong foot. One of the things that really took me back is that when you corrected me, and and I know you probably didn't mean anything from it, but I just wanted to let you know how I feel. Because if you don't tell people how you feel, they're not going to know. True.
And I'm glad you said that because it's exactly like my point. Like, and then she said that she it just really just threw her off because it was like, hey, we were doing a good thing, I thought. And then it just shifted. And then we have one more teacher who submitted something. She said that and she just wants to know perspective. So her admin this year, she is a seasoned teacher. She's been teaching for several years. And a new teacher came in, and so they booted her out of her classroom for the new teacher. Because they wanted the new teacher to be comfortable, and she, being a seasoned teacher, should be okay anywhere. So you're on that.
Yeah, that's not how I would approach things. I mean, obviously you make changes. You know, we've made changes to better support like the students. So if we've had to move a teacher, it was because for student purposes,
Right.
not to make a teacher. Now I know a new teacher's coming in, but there was a way to do that instead of like booting that one teacher. You know, why aren't you maybe, you know, splitting the classroom, saying, hey, we're not booting you, but we like to have this new instructor come in. You know, maybe you mentor that person and they share your classroom. So on your planning block, you know, they're going to be using your classroom, and then, you know, maybe one block a day you'll be in a different classroom. But at the end of the day, you can help mentor and show this new teacher the ways. To really boot somebody.
Yeah.
And I know not every school has the room. Like I know there's schools that teachers are on carts, you know, but I know the schools that every teacher has a classroom. Well, we're lucky enough where we're at where every teacher has a classroom. You know, nobody's like stressed about that. But the veteran teacher or the new teacher, I mean, you really have to come up with a medium ground where it really makes both persons as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. I said the same thing. I was thinking more of a collaborative approach probably would have been better. Like meeting with maybe the three of them, like the three of them meet and then discuss like maybe strategies, so the teacher feels like she's a part of it versus just being told, you know, what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and tell them way ahead of time so they can prepare. So, you
Yeah.
know, I've made changes, but I've told, you know, I don't think we ever made a change where it was like immediate. Like some people I've told a year in advance, like, hey, look, we're going to do this. We're changing the program, or we're going to have to shift where you're at. So they have time to prepare for that. But to tell somebody right as they're coming back to school that's what you got to do, and you've been in that classroom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
That was a blow. Like when she sent me that, I was like, oh, ooh. Like, I tried to be positive, but I was like, that's kind of messed up. Todd says, great info. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, thanks, Todd.
Clem says, do you think teacher check-ins help build relationships throughout the school year instead of just one at the beginning of the year and one at the end, outside of just observations?
I think, you know, we should be checking in with our teachers all the time. You know, one thing that I'm bad at is we hire new teachers, you know, I don't set up that a lot of time once a week or once every 2 weeks to pull that new teacher in and say, hey, how are you doing? What can I do for you? You know, I feel like I go around and I talk to all of our teachers on a daily basis to find that out.
But
you have to have that time, especially. And I know some people have a larger staff, but you also have more administrators when you have a larger staff. So if you're broken up, why aren't they doing a check-in? Like, I think sometimes when you walk in for an observation and you haven't built that relationship with that, you know, I remember as a teacher, if I didn't build a relationship with my administrator and they walked in for that observation, I was freaking out.
Same.
But once I built that relationship with them and I got to know them and they checked on me and I knew they cared about me, then when they came in and did that observation, regardless of what the outcome of was that observation, I could take the feedback, good or bad, right? Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So
it's so much easier that way. Like when there is a relationship built to receive the feedback, because I've had an administrator who is very like, you would think that it comes off as critical, but once I got to know her, I realized it's all out of love. Like no harm is meant at all. It's just like wants to see us do well, wants to see us succeed, but I didn't see that until after.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's hard, you know, especially if you haven't done nothing with that teacher since they started and you checked in on them when they first started and you left them alone for 6 months, and then you walk in their class one day and then you're doing an observation, and then the first thing they hear from you is a negative, or so
Yeah,
no,
it gets rubbed the wrong way.
yeah, he gets rubbed the wrong way. I think we all need to do a better job. But I think what happens is that everybody gets busy,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody has a lot on their plate, and then they forget what's important. And I think I have to do it myself. I got to prioritize what is important compared to, like, do I need to check that email today to see what's going on?
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. Well,
Yeah.
we got one more question for you.
Okay.
Do you have any encouragement for teachers for the upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, if I'm going to say anything to encourage you and to point you in the right direction, I would tell you this: love what you do. Love what you do with a passion, because when you love what you do, it makes it easier for you to walk in that door every day. And yes, are we going to have bad days? Yes, but you're going to outweigh the bad days by the good days, because one day you're going to be, and I'll tell you a story, because I just think it makes what we do worth it. You're going to be walking down the mall, and you're going to have your niece and this is a true story. I was walking down the mall with my niece Hannah, who just graduated, who wants to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm walking down the mall, one of my former students, Joe, see me across the hall, and this is probably 10 years ago. I had him in class, and he's at the pretzel place, and he sees me. He's Mr. Abed, and he just gives me the biggest hug in the world. Has his wife and his kid, introduced me to. This is Mr. Abed. This is the one I've always told you about. He's the one, that's why I had my charger, and that's why I did this, and that's why I did that. And his wife's like, I've heard so much about you. And then your niece, as you're walking away, looks at you, and like I said, she's going to school to be a teacher, and says, that's why I want to be a teacher.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right there. And yes, does that happen? Yes. And does it happen a lot? Or, you're sitting there one day, and I was getting procedure done, right? And I'm sitting there, and the young lady that's putting my IVs in, who's getting ready to put me under,
Mm-hmm.
goes, what do you do for a living, sir? And I said, I'm a principal at a high school. She says, the Career and Tech Center? I said, yeah. She goes, well, I went through that program. I went through the nursing program, and I remember you from being there, and I finished the nursing program there. I became a LPN. Now I'm RN, and she was putting the IVs in me to put me under. So at that time, you knew you did something right, because you're like, she's getting ready to put me under, right? And so,
oh my gosh.
So I know we all have bad days, but your good days are going to outweigh your bad.
Yeah.
And then when that one kid comes up to you and tells you thank you, or gives you that email, or does a shout out on your Facebook,
yeah,
or runs into you at the mall, or I've been in as far as New York City and ran into a kid I taught. It makes it worthwhile.
It does.
So,
yeah. And like I always say, this is my biggest motto. I said it at a conference that I taught a PD at this summer, and some teachers you need to put that on something and sell it, because I told them, I said, we as teachers, I wanted them all to remember that we as teachers will go with our students for the rest of their lives. It's just a matter of how we go with them and the impact we made. It's just a matter of, we're going to make an impact, but is it going to be a positive or a negative one? And we have to make that choice each day. Our students, our students get a fresh start. They should get a fresh start every day. It's hard sometimes, but we should give them a fresh start each day. I'm just saying.
No, they remember that. I mean, there's so many kids who remember the teacher who never encouraged them. Mm-hmm. And then when they become successful, they go back and tell that teacher, you never believed in me. But I think we see more kids come back and thank that teacher.
Yeah.
my wife and I always fight because she always says her job's more important than mine. Because she's a nurse, and she says, "Well, I save lives." I'm like, "Yeah, but we taught you to save lives." Like,
Boom.
so
Exactly. Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah, no, and it's crazy because we look at it even in the celebrity world, like the celebrities who literally will go and thank their second grade teacher. Like Adele just brought, I think I can't remember what grade it was, but her teacher showed up at one of her shows and she was blown because what they did is they asked her a question. They said, "Who in your life has made the biggest impact on your life and made the difference in your life?" And she said it was her second grade teacher, I think. And so they had surprised her. Her second grade teacher was in the audience and they brought her on stage and she was freaking out and she just bawled because like that's what I'm telling people. As teachers, we make an impact. It's just we may not see it all the time, which is hard. Like that return on your investment type of thing. You don't always see it or hear it, but we do make a difference. It's just a matter of what type of difference. So.
Yeah, and I'm still friends with teachers I had in high school. So like even the other day it was just weird. It's like I turned 50 right last week, and so everybody was posting on Facebook, and a teacher I had in elementary school goes, "How can you be 50?" Like it's neat because when you build a relationship and then you get to know people after being out. I'm still my high school marketing teacher. I'm at every time we were in. My daughter plays basketball and we were near where he lives. And I was like, "Hey, we're going to be here playing basketball." And he showed up and, and it's just, so you build those relationships and that's the key is building the relationships, getting to know those kids and getting to know the people around you,
Yes.
And so
for sure.
I'll tell you something somebody told me and I still to this day, I think about it. And when I first was applying to be a principal, I was sitting in this final interview and they asked me, "You're one of the nicest guys we know." And this talks about relationships and things like that. And they go, "What are you going to do that first time where a staff member gets mad at you because you made a decision that they didn't like? They don't answer your phone calls no more and they don't want to talk to you."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, at the end of the day, I go, it's about the kids. And when people understand it's about the kids and they understand why you're doing it, then they might stop talking to you and they might stop answering your calls, but it's only going to be for a little while because they're going to, they're going to see that you're not, you don't do anything. I don't try to ever do anything that negatively affect a staff member or jeopardize their livelihood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes, you do have to have those tough conversations and sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, but that's all of us, regardless of what position we're in.
True.
So.
No, so well said. So well said. But yes, any other questions, comments, guys, please drop them in the comments. We're going to head out shortly. Mr. Abed, I just want to thank you for taking out time to be here. Because we know at the beginning of the year, things are getting crazy and kind of hectic and busy. So the fact that you took out time out of your schedule to be here is just amazing. So thank you.
Well, I was just honored that you finally asked me on your podcast. I mean, I don't know how many episodes you've had. And I just assumed that, when I helped you go viral making those videos a couple years ago, that some kind of royalties would come into play at some point.
You are a mess.
But no, I appreciate it. I mean, it's it's always a pleasure. And not to toot your horn. I mean, you're one of the hardest working people I know.
Thank you.
And not only obviously are you teaching and you're doing your podcast and your comedy and all the professional development you want to do, and that's the hard part about teaching, right? Is we've got to start taking better care of our educators and. So they don't have to work 3 or 4 different jobs.
Yeah.
We should hold them at the same level as we do our athletes.
Yeah.
And that's not for just our teachers, but that's a lot of our hardworking people out there.
So true.
With the police department and the fire department and that really are on the front line of things. And so I'm hoping that one day we get to that point where they go, "Oh, wow. Let's really take care of people, and maybe our teachers will come back."
Yeah, exactly.
So it's getting harder and harder.
I know. And it's like the shortage is getting worse and worse. I seriously wonder, like, and this is just something that me and some of the other teachers have talked about, if eventually like it will be the fact of like a computer lab with kids in it doing virtual learning, like with one person in there, because it's easier to combine them all into that and with no teachers, since they don't have teachers. So it's interesting.
A lot of colleges are doing that already, universities,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's some subjects in high school that they can't find teachers for that they're doing that. But
Mhm.
Is that the best way for our kids?
No, for sure not.
No. So,
No.
no, but it's always a pleasure, Leslie. Obviously, if anytime you got, but since you have a big audience, I will do a shout out that I am looking for an EMT instructor. So if you know anybody who teaches EMT, we want to start an EMT program at the Career and Tech Center. It's a high demand need, and we like to say we grow our own in Spotsylvania. So with all our programs. So
yes, guys, he's hiring for EMT. What else are you hiring for?
That's it. Or maybe a hospitality teacher if you continue on the road that you've been on.
Oh, whatever.
But EMT, we wanted to start it up and we just haven't found the right person. But our health science area has really been growing. But if you ever talk to my wife, Leslie, I always tell her I start these programs because of her, because she's in the healthcare industry and she says, I need EMTs. So we're like, all right, I start an EMT program just for you, honey.
Just for her.
Just for her, just so you can have your EMTs.
That is hilarious. Well, hey, there is a shortage in the medical field too, so we get it. Yeah. Well, guys, that is all for tonight. But if you missed it, or if you know somebody else who missed it and wants to listen, they can listen via YouTube at lesliesaidwhat.com, or they can listen via all podcast channels tomorrow, or they can rewatch the video on Facebook. But again, thank you, Mr. Abed, for being here. I'm going to pull you out. You want to say goodbye?
Hi, guys. Thank you for listening.
All right, guys, that is it for tonight. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for your continued support. I truly appreciate it. This would not be a podcast without listeners. So I'm so glad that you guys are all here. All right, guys, without further ado, Leslie Said What Season 5, Episode 1 is out.